In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. So, welcome to another lecture. I don't usually tell people how to listen to these lectures, but because I am explaining my inner realms, it's like sitting somewhere, and if you're listening to this on a phone, like put it somewhere in the room, and it's like you're listening to someone. I want to dive into this idea that does every generation start from the entire knowledge base of humanity before them? That means is every human being that is born and up has in some sense the overall update. When it comes to reality, the most fundamental view is like you're born in a system and you're here to update the system before you leave. Like before I dive into really how I am experiencing existence, I want to share with the viewers that this question, I wish I had a notepad, but the importance of this question is in some sense suggesting that could it be that we are under the impression that we are just these physical beings and just we live a physical life and our physical life ends and anything other than our physical life is hocus pocus, right? This is nonsense. This is utter like lowest level, like you're listening to, like, how can I tell you, materialism is the laziest. Like it's legit, you can't get lazy. The only lazier than materialists are nihilists. Like they're the laziest kinds of like wonders of reality. I don't know how to say it. Let me explain. Is it just our body's life or is there something more? This is the question that is being wondered about. I have, in my inner realms, wondered about the future generations in so many ways. I can tell you that I have personally wondered about it as if, like, if I was born in the future, what would I look like? If I traveled into the future right now, how would I react to the kind of civilization I would find? Do you know? How fragile is human consciousness really, and what is the true life of reality? If you're an ego, you're kind of looking for the original storyline of reality. Because what you find in 2025 is that yes, humans have become civilized because they actually acknowledge invisible laws. Do you understand? That means it's very difficult to say is something real because it relates to the human being, or is it real because it's experienced? That means we're not born knowing everything about everything that will happen to us. At best, we might get visions. or like signals, warning signals or something of how the future will happen. For me, I have wondered about not just the future of myself, I have wondered what the future of the species would look like. I have wondered what the future would look like as someone who's Muslim, who acknowledges that reality has a system admin beyond this simulated world room. There is so many different lives in accordance to where attention goes. Do you know that means a human being? This is why I feel it's just the content in your attention is very vast, and the approach is really that you don't have to just think like, okay, how am I being a human being? You have to be like, okay, how is the idea of the human contextualized in an unknown world? This is the most important question. This has been one of those driving questions of my attention. So pretty much we are knowing the self in an unknown context. It's an unknown reality, which is another way of saying it. We don't know. That's it. Nobody knows. When I say nobody knows, I'm saying nobody knows where we are because we can't get to the edge of the cosmos. Nobody knows what we are because we did not create what we are. We are being what we are. On some level, we find ourselves in a world, like, honestly, I don't know, like, this, you're kind of seeing me after 12,000 days on Earth, kind of like speaking this way. What it appears to me, it's strange. Like, in utter honesty, if I can explain this, like, I'm just gonna say it, you know? So I consider myself a human being that has noticed something strange about existence. And I'm tagging along, playing along like everything is okay. Do you know? Trying to be this normal archetype of a self throughout the day. Do you know? But I cannot ignore what has entered the domain or the kingdoms of my attention. Okay? And it's not that I am a king. I am in some sense a being that has understood that the outer realms is an impersonal public server. So in front of my eyes, if I was an intelligence, a technology of sort, in front of my eyes, it's an external public server. Behind my eyes, it's an internal public server. That means I have, there's a version of me that is in front of others and myself, and then there's a version of me that is in front of myself. So when I am alone, the context I function through is different than when I speak. Because when I speak, I gotta honor how the concept has arose in the context of my perception. Where all of this is going is that the strange thing I've seen is that I've reached that point, and I guess as an explorer, I've reached that rank as an explorer, where an explorer of human intelligence from the beginning of my life till now. And my understanding of it is that there's no question there's a host. This world has an owner. but the owner is not a being in the world. That's first. That's like basic. Do you know? Up to 2023, I tried to explain it, but in 2023, it was confirmed to me. Okay, I'll explain it like this. This lecture is more important than my preference or opinions, but I'm just going to tell you what I have seen in these 12,000, like around 12,000 days I've been alive on this planet. So I've journeyed for 12,000 days on this planet, and what my findings are very different than the common story we're told. And so to contrast these two, to directly share with you and tell you how is it that in front of our eyes what life means is very different than how it's happening behind our eyes. Let me tell you some issues. That means if there were corrections to be made in let's say this realm, this world, this time, this line of, this lineage of world, you know, this timeline technically. So how do I explain to you that it's like we're in like some being's house, but we are not, this being is not formed and is not anything that is shaped. So the being is not the house. So if we identify with the house, even though we've been brought to this unknown house, we might forget that the host is beyond the house. Okay? Now there's a difference, because in Christianity the host is inside the house, but in Islam the host is not inside the house. What that means is your consciousness is attending an event that was not created by its will, and this event is so vast that your consciousness finds itself having a role. Do you know, kind of like being an extra in a sort of beyond this world event. Do you know? To me, the deeper presence of reality has a might beyond human conception. What that means is theology is very important to look at again. There's the geometry. Like if you treat language as culture, then you're limited by culture, by your culture. But I am telling you, to me, truth was like, okay, how is it being communicated? Usually people are trying to figure out truth, but how is truth being communicated? In reality, through the theological lens, and I'll say this in a way that perhaps secular people can relate more, like find a way to relate to. This world, again, is a simulated testing zone within a divine surveillance state. It is not designed to be understood, Do you know, in the sense that you can finally like measure a containable reality. One thing you have to understand about the macro events of reality is that they are all unknown. And what we consider to be a micro event is actually the experience of a micro event in a macro event. I'm trying to communicate that they've put us in a world like how do I explain, how do I say this respectfully? We, as conscious points of being, we have been positioned, honestly, okay, we're in a place that is bigger than our ability to understand and process. And think of it this way: in front of your eyes you can't see the edge of reality, and behind your eyes you in some sense discover you cannot see the edge of a dimension of self. So isn't it strange that the system admin, that God created us and was like, all right, you can't see the edge of the cosmos and you can't figure out what's looking through your eyes because you can't see the unobservable dimensions. Do you know that means it's like the concept it has limits and the context is limited as well to some degree. And so God is like, if you go try figuring out what the world error, you can't figure it out. It's too big. If you go trying to figure out what your soul is, error, it's not dualistic. You know, it's not containable as an idea only. That means what you have been this whole time is an unknown presence of intelligence rather than a sort of being that has allowed an idea to own its own moment. That means we're living at a time where there is no external physical slavery in modern societies, but there is very open ideological slavery. And ideological slavery is way more brutal, do you know, than in some sense external slavery, because ideological slavery is a sort of self-enslavery. Do you know that you enslave yourself to a view that does not update in a changing world? That means the only thing is in some sense the unchanging. You see, the truth can only be an unconditional value for conditional beings, because that is what is beyond them. Unconditional means beyond the world rule. So to me, the macro events, God's like, you can't zoom out too much. And when we zoom in, or how would I say it? Let me say it differently. It's like God's like, I'm going to show you the unique design of the biological body. So I'm going to fascinate the organism by how I've even created it. Right? And when this organism, when this being becomes fascinated by how it's been created with such forethought, such consideration of different values. That means, like, if you just look at the design of the biology of the biological human body, it cannot be fathomed by a mind. It's not created by a created being. Like, how should I explain it? I don't, I mean, oh my god, how should I explain this? Um, I'm pointing out that how is not how we are born in existence experientially. I'm trying to say, how is existence born? That means the birth of existence. It was as if what created this world was a reality way more aware of this world. Do you understand? We're like in one room of a mansion, and we think this room is the whole mansion, right? And some people are like, why are we even in a mansion? You know, why are we in a building? Why are we in a construct right now? Why is the cosmos being forced to be encapsulated in structure? Because human beings, the major thing about them is our attention to design. That's the reason we evolved. We noticed. We noticed more out of the world. So to me, there's enough geometry to prove that this world was not designed by something worldly. The first domino wasn't pushed by a domino before it. And so when you're in a world that has a system admin, it's like, there goes all the human planning. The person's like, I had dreams, I had ambitions, I had imagined so many things for myself. Wait a minute, you're saying there's a system admin, and regardless of how much I attempt to manifest my dreams and ambitions, on some level, it's like the will of reality far surpasses the will of any individual? To me, I'm trying to say that it feels to me it's like we're not just existing, that an unknown force is not just maintaining our being, but it's like existence has been commanded into being. I don't know how to explain this. It's like a being beyond existence commanded existence, and then these beings created before that existence entered that existence, and now they're being tested on whether they remember that truth existed before the idea did for man. It's all about the greater games of life, are all about the furthest reaches of the awareness of intelligence at all. Like, we have to on some level be like, okay, like when we look at the words human intelligence, we have to be like, okay, what are human beings doing, and what is even intelligence mean? What is intelligence as an idea separate from the human idea? Do you know? Because dehumanizing in the linguistic simulation, it's way more appropriate than in some sense dehumanizing in the outer realms. Because it took me a while to comprehend truly that any impression that I have from anyone is incomplete due to how they're living a hidden life behind their body, and communication that has nothing to do, like, I'm saying we're present in more ways than we think. Anyways, folks, there was more to say, just to in some sense explain to you the notion of We've been conditioned to know life in a certain way. It is actually unknown. It's actually a much mightier intelligence than our expectation. There are so many variables that we haven't seen. And so it's like we're not just facing an observable reality, we're also facing an observable reality that has roots in unobservable realities. So the human species has its work cut out for it in regards to how much it has to wonder about what the true nature of reality is. But more than us thinking it's like you becoming the idea you are destined to be, is more realizing your whole lifetime was a node of all the different views that you chose to move through, and the moment you moved, you were as. So the mystery of reality surpasses the story we're telling about it. Therefore, we're in a really strange place. So strange that we freaked out how strange it is and we started telling each other stories. You know, to appreciate an unknown world, you just have to be like, what is the idea of me doing here? And then you realize what's missing from modern civilization is a collective honor system. That means it's like if the whole species is depressed, I wouldn't be surprised, because what motivates intelligent beings on earth is their purpose. Now, most beings, their purpose is kind of conditioned, but this is in some sense wondering about the human has to discover its like the environment for most animals tells them what their purpose is. Humans have an ability to shift through environments. We're not shapeshifters, but we do shift our attention from the different shapes of different environments. So we are location shifters. Right now, the same location shifting occurs also in the inner realms, but it occurs in ways where sometimes it appears as if the brain's like, okay, I simulated a version of myself, this version was now I see a better version to simulate. Okay, it's like a recorrect itself, communication. I'm honestly trying to say that in my view, this is what I'm saying. I used to think that this realm was logical. I used to think reality was logical and you could just use analysis, but it is not the case. Because the moment the world has an owner, the will of the reality not doesn't bend. That means, like imagine you're a guest at somebody's house, right? You can't tell them what to do in their house. Do you see what I mean? Like that's in the same way. It's like they choose like what happens in their house. Similarly, we are not in our own house, and if we just take this view that we're these unknown beings that like guests of history's current honor, have just arrived, you know to me it's more like, yo, what sort of specific life should I live out of all the specific lives that my mind can fathom. And it shifts to, okay, if I can't figure it out in regards to ideas of my future self, I need to think of values. So what are the values of now and what are the values of the future? And then you start establishing a relationship with realities that are freer in your mind than in front of it. That means this is the protocol. I mean, how else, like, human beings talk about balance. Have you ever thought that there's a balance of abstract and reality, or fiction and non-fiction in the moment? There is so much faith shielding the human experience, and of course the protection of the system admin for the creation must be grateful at all times. That's the protocol. Find something that fascinates you and your gratefulness is restored. I am fascinated by how advanced our species can be. It's just so fascinating. It's fascinating to me. It's like I was born in 1991, and a part of me is like, I wonder what everybody who was born exactly the moment I was on the planet, like, I wish I could find all those people, you know? Like there was a Discord or a Facebook group or something that it's like all the people born exact, and it's like, do you know what I mean? It's like waves. And wondering about how many different ways reality moved forth and how many different circumstances. Like this world is making sure that even if you're born similar, do you know what I mean? In some sense, you will not be, because ultimately, this is what it means that there's a soul. That means your decisions are based on your private inner realms, but also based on your mind's processing power. Do you understand? It's kind of like your destiny is also can be dependent on how much of reality you're aware of. Do you know? Like the destiny of someone who smells like something burning on the stove, you know, is very different than someone who doesn't care what they smell, you know, or doesn't care what they see. And it's taken me a while, but I've understood to some degree that the true test of character is not about leaving, you know, when it's fun, but staying when it's chaotic. We must care for the greatness of all of us. And everything you do, you're representing humanity. That means if a human being doesn't take care of themselves, they're being rude to the species. They're not honoring, do you understand, the position of the species? Right now, it's all like nation kind. Okay, we got to go to humankind, mankind, and then from humanity, we go to earth kind. We become earthly conscious. That means you care for the planet. That means you become a being. You're not busy going to work. Like imagine in the future, you know, government makes a law that everybody has to walk to work. You know? That means you get paid more if you walk to work than you in some sense drive to work. And then you're gonna have like traffic issues go away, you know, but you're gonna have lots of crowded. I don't know. This idea can be developed. Yeah. So I'm saying that when a human being is born, okay, I think you got to think. I don't know. To me, a part of me is like, from the moment consciously information is being accessed, that's the birth of a possible self. Yeah, I think if you update the soil, the plants grow better in it, right? So I can see that the future generations will have an updated consciousness, which means they will have a greater clarity, they will have greater clarity levels as beings, and because they will have greater clarity levels, they're gonna suffer less from the mistakes we made because we didn't notice our blind spots, because they will. The future generations always, like, I mean, to be honest, like what can a human being do, right? They're like, okay, if I'm taking care of my life, well, guess what, my species has a life, the whole world has a life, the whole cosmic sector is alive. But it's also based on how much we can notice it too. That's the joy of it. That means I thought I was shy until I realized every moment of my life I am meeting a new conscious moment. The brain is deluding itself in familiarizing reality based on past patterns. That means in the future, what an advanced mind means is equivalent to Like, let me tell you, in my view, who the most intelligent beings on earth are. They are beings that, regardless of what branch their existence is on, they can experientially fly into the limitless sky and witness the whole forest at once. So it's like you're not having an out of body experience, you're having an out of species experience, to the degree that you realize, why do you care for what you are? Because there's been nothing like this before. There's never been any podcaster in history who has coughed as much as me. I'm joking. In his lectures. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. There 100% has been, and I'll probably stop coughing soon. God willing. So, anyways, in the middle of living your own life, do not forget to live your life. Do not forget the life you're living as part of your do not forget the life of your species. Do not forget the life of, just like, let me tell you, do you think a materialist generates more trash in their lifetime, or an immaterialist? I think the answer is obvious. Aside from it being culturally relevant, but like, the answer is obvious. If this world is the final value for you, then you have no other choice than to be happy with it. But if this reality is not the final moment, because I am a being that I consider the final moment of life is not death, it is God. It is meeting the system admin as a user that notice God's presence in every moment. For what does that mean? That means existence is the command of God. It's like, I don't know what's watching me, but I know I'm being watched. Therefore, if I'm being watched, I am existing to that which is a reality beyond me. That means I am so much more fascinated by not just how I see myself in this moment with my limited, let's say, human experience, human brain, and like, all our human brains are like a couple pound flesh. So I'm saying it's not just I'm limited to the experience of humanity, but it's to notice the space between the words. They've convinced you that a life full of meaning means every moment has to mean something. Sometimes it's just something happening and we're just attending. Like, some days of my life, I'm just attending existence. And I'm like, all right, how shall intelligence move? What is the victory of this day and age? Anyways, I think the answer is yes. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat section. Thank you for listening. And of course, God knows best, the unseen. But in my view, even if they are not updated, like, we should advance civilization as far as we can. That means, like, you want to equip the future generations with the greatest tools. And then if they don't, and with the greatest vision, because if you have a great vision, you can attain purpose in this life. Some people think purpose is something specific. No, it's like you're valuing reality in a certain way, and the way your mind has valued certain things, you get pulled towards their value. Do you know that means someone who is fascinated by, the unknown nature of existence, they're gonna love being around me. But somebody who in some sense wants a simulation to repeat just because it's comfortable, like, I can't, like, how can I relate to a photograph when I'm living in a film, So reality is beyond known nouns, and we are being ushered into the era of the unknown verb, Anyways, thank you for listening in the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Thank you.